So as they mentioned, I'm the creative director at Nominee, which is a boutique branding agency currently in Edmond, and I believe in the power of curiosity. On the evening of August 5th, 2012, I was in my apartment listening intently to the real-time landing of a rover on Mars. It was a 2,000-pound, $2.5 billion rover, about the size of a Mini Cooper, designed to explore Gale Crater as part of NASA's mission to Mars. Its purpose was to find out if life on Mars was possible, or if it had ever been. And its landing required maneuvers and techniques that had never been attempted before. Quite a risk for something that cost $2.5 billion. Because it was so complicated, they called the landing the 7 minutes of terror. And I was on the edge of my seat, waiting for the signal that it had landed safely. After 7 intense minutes, the signal arrived. The landing had gone off successfully, and the rover beamed back its very first black and white image of the thumbnail of Mars. That rover's name was Curiosity. Curiosity is a basic element in how we learn. It plays a role in our decision-making, creating memories, and the ability to connect the dots between experiences to form out-of-the-box ideas and create new things. It's an invaluable piece of our survival in the world that we live in, because the world is getting more complex. We are creating more data than ever before. So every 60 seconds, every minute, there are 98,000 tweets, 695,000 status updates, 11 million instant messages, and 1,820 terabytes of data created every minute around the world. Then think about all of the other things that's creating data around you right now. This talk, the lights, the things that your brain is taking in, the temperature of the room, the people around you. This data doesn't come with a ping notification like your status update or your instant messages. Your brain is just taking it in constantly. And our brains are constantly learning, constantly taking in this new data, making memories, all while keeping us alive at the same time. But not only that, our global data production is increasing at an insane pace. This is an example from 2009, the growth of global data in zettabytes and projected for 2020. For perspective, 1 zettabyte is 35 billion terabytes. Global data, this exponential growth we have. So we're dealing with more data than ever before, and our ever-changing complex world that we live in forces us to use more brain power to take in new data. And not everyone handles change and new data very well. But curious people aren't afraid of change. Curious people are more likely to take advantage of new opportunities. They're more likely to take risks. They're more likely to see change and be open to it, and to turn a new experience into a new advantage. Curiosity is also good for our economy. It's not just good for who we are as people. In Brian Grazer's book, A Curious Mind, he mentioned that businesses that lead with curiosity can help generate more original ideas in their company on all levels, while also helping raise employee engagement levels, helping everyone feeling more engaged, more likely to participate when you lead with a curious culture. In 2015, there was a study conducted of over 1,000 CEOs, asking them which leadership traits are becoming more important in an increasingly globalized and innovative world. Curiosity and open-mindedness were two of some of the top traits listed on their list. There are many examples of innovative business ideas that started with curiosity and revolutionized their industry. We all know many of these success stories. One example was the guy named Jack Dorsey. He saw his friend who is a local small business, lose a large sale to a potential customer because they couldn't process credit card payments. He asked himself why only bigger businesses at the time could do that. So he ended up founding the company Square, which we have all probably heard of by now, a mobile payment company that millions of businesses now use to conduct transactions. It all started with being curious and thinking differently. But new ideas are rarely formed on their own. Social interactions among creative workers tend to generate more learning opportunities that enhance innovation and productivity. This is why more creatives are starting to move towards city centers, out of suburbs and rural areas, because they want to be around people with good ideas. You are who you hang out with. Curiosity is a tool we use to tap into the mysterious and unpredictable. It's what helps you stay ahead of your competitors. It's when our scattered bits of data come together to help us make unexpected leaps into innovation, leading us to discover what's waiting in the future. And those who discover the future or create and engineer the next big thing are the leaders in their industry. So curiosity is innate within us. It's something that feels good to do. It activates that reward system in our brain, and it's good for business. So what can we do to promote curiosity in our life, work, and society? The first is to be humbly confident. This is when we have the confidence to speak up and the courage to be original. Hear that again, the courage to be original. And also having a humble understanding that we do not have all the answers. So notice that it's humbly confident, not confidently humble. It still has to be rooted in confidence. When we become defensive or unwilling to see someone else's point of view because of our own arrogance, we're crushing the cognitive process. We're essentially shutting down any curiosity into how our model of the world may be wrong and losing out on that valuable data that could lead us to innovation. Think of the story of Galileo, who had evidence to confirm the Copernican theory that the Earth revolved around the sun. Even though the widely accepted model of the time was that the sun revolved around the Earth, he spoke up. He was humbly confident and published his findings. Unfortunately, if you know the story of Galileo, you know that didn't go so well. And he was sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life. Yet, although he was physically confined in his home, you can't share an idea and let it go once it's out in the world. It just keeps going. He may be in his home, but that idea is out there. But the world has benefited from his courage to share his idea, even when it went against what everyone at the time was preaching. But being humbly confident also means being okay with the fact that we don't know everything, and that it's okay to ask questions. It means when you connect with people from different backgrounds and industries and religions, you're seeking a better understanding of what you don't know. For example, when you go out of your way to talk to someone in their native tongue, talk with someone about a religion that you're not familiar with, you're subconsciously saying to them that I recognize you have an identity and a culture outside of my knowledge, and I respect that. And when I meet with diverse creatives from outside of Oklahoma City, I know they bring valuable insight. I'm curious about what they have to offer. When I meet with a creative from India, I know that they have experienced brands that I have never heard of, or colorways that I could have never considered. A confident humility allows you to not only have good ideas and champion them, but allows for honest reflection when presented with new information. The second is hunger for knowledge. Curiosity feeds itself when it's supported in the right environment. This is because our brain circuit related to reward goes into play when we're learning new things and making new memories. Chances are one of your first memories was probably something that you were interested in, you were exploring as a kid, and then you remember it because your mind was interested. So creating positive connections by learning allows you to connect things to unrelated information later. Nowadays, there are so many freely available resources to learn, like free online courses from outstanding universities like Harvard and Stanford, or YouTube to learn a new skill for free. It's easy. Try little goals like exploring a bookstore and reading a book once a month. Spending a lunch break watching a TED Talk for 15 minutes. Or using a free language learning app. Again, free apps to learn a language to practice before you go to bed. The third way to promote curiosity-driven culture is to be social. Ideas are rarely formed in a vacuum of nothingness. Your coworkers, your colleagues, and yes, even your competitors all affect your creativity. Something as simple as taking a colleague out for coffee establishes new connections and gives light to new insights. Hearing what others are working on may help you form new ideas of your own and make new connections you may have not seen previously. It's the reason why innovative companies tend to cluster together in a phenomenon called knowledge spillover. So knowledge spillover is a result of casual social interactions from people in different fields. So they've been able to measure this by looking at patents, right? Because how do you quantify just talking with people and getting new ideas? Well, patents are a great way to do that. When someone invents a new really good idea or product, they want to patent it. And most of the time, they have patent citations that list what their patent idea has been built upon. What they have found is that patent citations are local. You're more likely to reference a patent that's within your state, and that's very common, than if it was in another country or even in a state next to you. So when you're likely to cite that patent, that's likely to due to knowledge spillover. The next step in creating a curiosity-driven culture is to be encouraging. So if you're like me and you grew up in the 90s, you may have been a very you may remember a very eccentric cartoon science teacher by the name of Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Yes, Miss Frizzle had the best motto for a curiosity-driven culture. Take chances, make mistakes, get messy. She was a model curiosity advocate for all of us when we were kids. This is great. Encouraging her students to experience new things, to be inspired, and to not be afraid of failure. In order to have a curiosity-driven culture, we need to have those encouraging advocates. Miss Frizzle could be that encouraging advocate for some of us. Whether it's your boss, your coworker, your friend, reminding you to have that beginner's mindset with a problem. And a beginner's mindset refers to an attitude of openness and lack of preconceived notions just when you're tackling a problem, just like a beginner. A great example was Apple's Steve Jobs, who questions why products with a battery had to be charged right when they were out of the box. So many of you guys may remember this. You get a toy, and you have to wait to charge to use it. People would wait in line for the product, drive home, pull this sparkling new product outside of the box, and wait to charge. From then on, all Apple products came charged in the box, ready to use. You didn't have to wait. That was Steve having that beginner's mindset to a problem that most people had accepted. But most importantly, we need to be our own advocate, our own encourager when we're stuck or stuck in routine, when we're feeling uninspired. Like going for a walk, reading a book, putting down your phone, or when you realize that you're too afraid to try something because you're too afraid to fail. And we need to be our own advocate to push us to try. Because the more times you try and fail, the more likely you're also going to succeed. But if you never try at all, you will never succeed. Look around you. Everyone in here made the decision today to come to this talk and be curious. Maybe you've enjoyed Creative Mornings in the past. Maybe you just want to do something different and get out of a Friday morning meeting. I'm all okay with that. But something in your mind encouraged you to go. So chances are that means that the people who probably need to hear this talk the most aren't in here. That we need to push our neighbors and our friends to be curious and try something new. So everyone in here can be that encouraging presence for ourselves and for others. Which leads me to my next point. Embrace different. Routine and conformity are killers of curiosity. We know that heavy routine makes our brain go into a kind of autopilot mode. And although routine is necessary to give our brains a break, there's so much data, we need to kind of go into that autopilot mode sometimes. But strict routine cultures that focus too much on strict routine will kill and cut out opportunities for curiosity. Many companies try to hire innovative people, different, visionary, diverse. They want diversity. They want new opinions and ideas. But then they try to manage their every step, creating an environment not suitable for creative exploration. You're hiring these people and then squashing them right when they come in. The new and different pushes us outside of our comfort zone. When you experience something you haven't experienced before, your brain works harder to process this new and complex information. For many people, that might mean you feel more stressed and anxious in a new experience. You may feel uncomfortable. You may even shut down. But the more experiences that you have, the more data you have in your mind to pull from, the more likely you're able to connect the current experience that's uncomfortable and unfamiliar to a previous one, and you make it familiar. You turn that complex situation into something that you know and that you can start to work from. So the universe, and what little we know of it, really, is an incredibly interesting place. But we still have a lot to be curious about. The ocean, for example, which covers 70% of the Earth's surface, is still 95% unexplored. That's insane. That's according to the National Oceanic Administration, or Atmospheric Administration. That's a 2017 statistic. Our human eye can only see a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, what we call visible light. That's only what our eye can see, is a fraction of the spectrum. And we've created tools to see the rest, things like X-rays and gamma rays and radio waves. And according to NASA, the universe we observe, everyone in this room, our entire world that we know, all of the planets and stars in the universe make up only 5% of the universe we know right now. The rest of that is made up of things like dark matter and things we don't know of yet. And that's just our best guess with what the tools we have right now. Right now, we think we know 5%. Think of previous explorers who thought they knew what the world was, and then they discovered the new world. Their understanding of the world opened wide. So tools like Curiosity Rover are one of the many ways we satisfy this intrinsic motivation to understand more about the world around us. We all have the potential to live a more curious life. It's not a talent people are born with, but a muscle that you can grow. By embracing a culture of curiosity, being humbly confident, hungry for knowledge, being social, being that encourager for ourselves and for others, and embracing the different and the unknown, our society will continue to be more successful, more accepting, more competitive, and more innovative than ever before. Thank you. Questions? Yes.
What do you think of all this? You're talking about the incredible accumulation of information. What do you think this is going to take the human brain?
We're going to make better tools to analyze it and sift through it. Because yeah, ultimately our brain can't do more than a certain amount of things at any time, and that, as far as I know, hasn't changed over the course of centuries. We just keep getting better tools to analyze the information that we're getting. That's what I would say. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, go ahead.
Yeah, I asked, with the accumulation of all the knowledge and the information that is increasing at ever increasing exponential rate, how is the human brain adapting to be able to process that?
Yes, Kara.
Is there a recent situation where curiosity has benefited you personally?
Is there a recent situation where curiosity has benefited me personally? Absolutely. I'm in new and unique situations every single day with my job. But one of the best examples was the OKC illustration series that was mentioned at the beginning of this talk. When I moved here, I didn't know anyone here. I had no family, I had no friends. I moved here for a job, like just stuck taking a job that I needed. So I moved here, I didn't know anyone, anything. And that illustration series was me kind of later down the road being curious about Oklahoma City and the cool things that are here and the cool buildings that are here and businesses and things to be proud of. And so I would go out, I would go take a picture, I'd go maybe hang out in the business, like Cuppies and Joe was my first one. Went and grabbed a coffee, enjoyed the space. Like I had been there several times before and I really thought it was a special place. And so that was something that led me to do, and not only that, it was a style I had never done before. So I was just trying to do something new, just like get out of your comfort zone of your typical illustration style and try a style that I had not done before. I did not care if it did well or not. It was purely me being my encourager to try something new and get out of my comfort zone. And since then, it's been a very fun, wild ride of a project. So, anyone else? Yes.
The more informed your design is, it's usually from all your other life experiences, like you're a designer, you're great brands and things. If you want that to be good, you've got to have a rich life that has nothing to do with design. So, that being said, where has curiosity taken you that has nothing to do with design? Like, design aside.
So design aside, outside of like looking at Behance and whatever for creative inspiration, right? Obviously, I stay up till like 1 a.m. listening to a rover landing. I mean, doing weird stuff. Like I don't have a TV, so it's kind of like I have just my computer, and I choose to have to pull up information and choose to search for things. I also really love backpacking. And that's something where that kind of relates to Meredith's talk about putting yourself in an intentionally controlled stress situation. Backpacking, you have 60 pounds on your back. You're really focused on one foot in front of the other because you're so tired that you just want to crash. But it does kind of open you up just looking at, you're looking at the forest floor and you're looking at what's around you. I love to travel. I love any excuse to get out of the office in the studio that we work in and just go work somewhere else. Change of scenery is good. But especially things like outer space and NASA, the fact that like we are landing $1 billion rover on Mars and hoping that it works, like that's the most inspiring. I mean, that's just like pioneers, man. That's like Oregon Trail going out where someone hasn't been yet, like that's the most inspiring thing to me. So when I see people in other fields, I always try and stay up to date on like tech, medical, arts, anyone that's doing anything cool and innovative and new. I want to know what's happening because you never know when you might pull that in with some branding project that we're working on, like how to better engage people. And over here, there's this tech company that's making this new software for something. Well, how can we plug that in with what we're doing over here? Or pull some of those pieces of data. So that's why it's like, it's not only don't have your blinders on in your industry, but pay attention to everything else. Yes. Yes, so situations where someone has maybe squashed my curiosity, that maybe it wasn't welcome. I would go home and do it anyway. Or I would go home and just live my best life, doing whatever the heck I want. Because when you're off work, you're on your own time. There's no excuse. You can't say that, my portfolio doesn't look like what I want it to be because the job that I have doesn't offer, No, you go home and do it. Go home and work. Go home and work on that thing that makes you curious. That's being your own encourager. Encouraging yourself and not relying on your job or people who surround you to be that encourager, but you're the one doing it for yourself. So go home and do it. There's no excuse. Spend that, even if you have 5 minutes to read a new book, learn a new language, 5 minutes at the end of the day. Do that one thing. And that practice, and the more you do that and improve on it, it just makes a world of a difference. Anyone else? Yes?
How do we encourage the curiosity that will make people go out and just demand integration, racial integration, social economic integration, and in Oklahoma City, integrating with immigrants and learning what we can learn from immigrants?
Yeah, so how to just make maybe people in Oklahoma City a little more open-minded kind of thing, right?
With all different types of people.
With all different types. With all different types of people, making it a priority. I think that comes down to bringing someone either to a new experience. One example that I heard of was, I think it was in Utah when they were really trying to push, legalizing gay marriage. They had a lot of people who were going out and canvassing door to door and just talking to people, just saying, hey, how do you feel about this topic? And just listening, not preaching, just listening. And then maybe offering a little bit of dialogue. We need people in our society who are gung-ho, who are yelling it from the rooftops, who are aggressive, who are setting up marches. That's awesome. But you change minds by these small conversations that you have, talking to people one-on-one, not trying to preach, just as much as you might not want to be preached to either, but having those small, genuine conversations over time. We need both people. We can't just have one. We can't just have the listeners and the preachers. You got to have both. So I do think it's a mix of the two, but going and having honest conversations and being a listener. Anyone else? One more question. Yes.
So the data that you brought up at the beginning kind of resonates. Sometimes I feel like I still have 98,000 tweets myself.
Right.
And I think curiosity is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity is part of the reason that I pick up Instagram and then I look up 45 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have to click on that article that has 10 unexpected things that I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of bringing discipline and intentionality to your curiosity, because you could put a bigger curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Right. The rabbit hole of the internet, yes. So how do we bring a little more routine for the curious culture, right? I think the first thing is, curiosity is okay, but routine is also needed. I mean, that's why we have jobs, we have time that we have to go there. The biggest thing for me has been I don't have any notifications on my phone, pretty much other than phone calls and text messages, and people don't really call me very much because I don't really answer my phone very much. I will call you back. That's also probably why things like direct messages on Instagram, I batch do them. I don't just get them every time, so it might take me a little while to get back to people. And then I also have cleared off many of the apps on the front of my phone, and I've hidden them pages behind. So if I really do want to be intentional about going to some app or platform, I'm making sure I'm going to a page, okay, still need to swipe again to get there. Do I really need to do this or not? So it's kind of creating those filters, There's been a study out there or a paper published where that little red notification that's on your phone or being pinged, every time you go to Instagram or Facebook and you refresh your feed, that's like doing a slot machine. Because you're trying to see that reward. Am I going to get that reward again of seeing that little red dot up in the corner? Or am I not going to get anything? And they do it intermittently. You're not going to get that reward every time, because they want you to keep coming back, and maybe the next time you will. If you know you get one every time, you're not going to do it. Just like when you're gambling, if you know you win every time, that kind of loses some of the fun. So for me, it's turning off notifications on my phone that are distracting, designating time, knowing when I'm most curious in my day, which would be like, for me, curiosity comes in the afternoon or at 10 o'clock at night. The morning for me is like, all right, let's get stuff done, let's have calls, let's have meetings. Afternoon, the day kind of chills out. I have a little more time to be focused. We have a thing at Nominee called deep work, where we have a little light on our desk that we can turn on when we're really focused in work and we don't want to be disturbed. So headphones, we did headphones for a while, and obviously you might have headphones on and be open to have a conversation. So you have these deep work lights where you can turn that light on and have completely focused work. The other thing is 10 o'clock at night. For me, that's when the world shuts down. That's not just when our clients shut down, that's when the universe starts to just chill out. And that's when I really feel like I can dive in and really think about things and explore, and that's when I do some of my most creative work. Thank you, everyone.